right? So this was basically our new agenda, and we are going to go in a very structured way, because we have done that initial activities and that familiarization activities on how Eclipse and Java works and what are classes, basics of OOPS, because I covered some OOPS as well in those sessions. But as I said, not to worry, because these things are going to get repeated again and again and again, right? Because all of these concepts which you see here, like other divisions of different topics, they all will be using all of this, whatever is completed. So Eclipse, classes, objects, variables, this is going to get repeated again and again. Object-oriented programming principles, again, we have to learn it. Like it's continuous learning. Like I'm still learning few things on object-oriented programming. Even I myself is learning, because learning never stops. Guys, can you go on mute if you're not talking? Okay. Right. So from now onwards, because a lot of things were happening, new people were getting added, getting removed, a lot of things were happening. So things were a bit unstructured. But from now onwards, as I said, we will be moving in a very structured way, because we need to get started with Selenium as soon as possible. So by 26th is what we are targeting to start with basics of Selenium. Before this, we really need a good understanding on these topics which we have listed here. This is not a comprehensive list of the Java stuff which we need to learn. We need to learn many more things, and we would learn it while working on Selenium scripts. Okay, but before we go and jump onto the Selenium, if you're not very sure about and we don't have much hands-on these topics, it's really will be very, very difficult for you to pick up Selenium. Okay, so that's the reason we need to, and secondly, we really cannot spend too much time on Java, right? Because it will take at least 2 months, 3 months to do complete Java, and then because we don't really want to waste that much time, our focus is automation. So we will do only that much which would help us to start working on Selenium, and rest of the Java stuff, rest of the Java frameworks and all those things, we will learn while doing it, while automating it, right? And trust me, there are a hell lot of things in Java which we need to learn, and that all of that we will learn while doing it. And there are of course many things which, if you don't know, will not be having, you will not face much of the problem if you still don't know those concepts, because you really are not inclined towards doing a PhD on Java. Okay, we need to do bare minimum, something which would help us in achieving our goal of automation testing, and essentially to get a job in automation testing. So we will do the first phase of Java is this, then we'll do Selenium, and while in Selenium we will again in between will start with the next phase of Java, where we'll do some more things. And while working on Selenium, of course you need to use a lot of things in Java. So all I'm trying to say here is, don't worry, this is not a comprehensive list. We will have to do a lot more, but this is the bare minimum. If you can't even do this much, then this will be very difficult for you. Okay, so I think all of you should now brace yourself, like prepare yourself to do some hands-on, because just merely listening to lectures and like not doing not spending good time with actually doing it will be kind of very difficult later on. Okay, so if you face any issues in doing it, we are there. I'm here to help you guys. Sarang is there to help you out. You can reach out. You have been reaching out to us. You can again reach out, but really the hard work is really you guys have to do. All we can tell you is this is how it's done. Now you have to try it out and see if you are able to do the same thing which I've been able to do. Right? So hands-on is the key. That is all it takes, nothing else. Okay. So I will move on now. So our today's agenda is conditional statements and loops. And if time permits, I will also talk about access modifiers. This we have already discussed again in the past, in the previous classes. But again, because there were some doubts, I've seen some doubts people were asking, I couldn't address them last session. That's the reason I've included it here. But today we'll mostly be focused on conditional statements and loops. Okay. So first thing first, I have a GitHub repository. Let me show you. And most of the code I keep here. Whatever I write here, usually I keep inside in these repositories. So all of this concept which I'm going to tell, I have kept inside this Autofret common library. There are few things here. All the common code is actually I try to put here. So whatever code I'm going to write today is going to be part of this repository. So if you need help in seeing the way I've done it, you don't have to really open the video and navigate. You can really navigate to this link, and you will see the code. So let me just ping this in the group right away. Okay, I pinged in the group. Now what is this GitHub and all? Again, we had a small session. I think Sarang had a session, but yeah, this needs a complete, I think 1 or 2 day of discussion around it, what it is, how it works and all. So don't worry, you don't have to worry about this as of now. This is just for you, for a reference. But maybe someday in between when we do the, maybe in a week or next week, I'll try to introduce it, because this is something which is the most important thing which you all need to learn. Without this, everything is lost. Okay, and this will also, as I said in the last also, if you have attended my previous session, this is what I would use to review your work, because that is the key. You can work on in silos, but if I'm not seeing what you're doing, whatever you're doing is a sorry to say, it's a garbage. Until I see it and I point the mistakes and you make it better. Okay, so anyway, I'll point to go to our Eclipse now. Okay, so this is the project which what you were seeing there. Actually, what you were seeing here in this link, this is nothing but our Eclipse project. So what you see here as a folder structure, you will also get to see the same folder structure here. So right now I am actually coding inside miscellaneous Java concepts. So here you have source stress Java. Inside this you have different things like collection examples, and so don't have to worry about it. I will push this folder called as basics. So after today's session, I'm going to push this, and you will see a folder called as basics inside this, and that's where all the code which we're going to discuss today would be present. Okay. Now let me go straight into Eclipse. So today's concept, as I said, is our conditional statements. Now, what are conditional statements? Let me just tell you a simple example first, and then I'll go to, what did I do? Sorry. Then I will go to specific examples which I have already pre-written. Let me create a temp folder. I have created a package inside basics. So basically, let me just show you again if you have confusion. So if I need to create a package inside another package, that's how I do. You don't remove this. Okay, you put a dot and you give it a name. So what happens inside basics, you will create a folder. So packages are nothing, basically it's just a folder. In Eclipse, when you view it, it looks like a package, but essentially it actually is a folder structure in a file system. If you go inside this workspace, you will see that as a folder structure, right? So when I say basics dot something dot, if I do another dot, that means this is a parent folder. Inside this we have another folder. Inside this we have another folder. But it looks and it is represented in Java as a package structure or sub package and sub package. Anyway, I wanted temp. I got the temp here. Now here I have already have a class. This is not the temp which I'm looking for. Okay, sorry. I was looking for this, right? So temp, I'll go inside this and create a class. Class again, let's say I'm giving it a name as temp, let's say. Then I will go and create a public static void main string args. Now this is a standard, I should say, signature of any Java program from where the Java program will start. So public static void main is the starting point of any Java program. I think we know this much. We have covered this in the previous sessions. So if you want to run anything in Java, you need to have this method. Other than that, we also have seen that JUnit stuff, which I was talking about in the previous classes, because we created Maven project as well. I'm going to talk about Maven again, so don't worry. If you have missed anything from the past sessions, not to worry. Whatever I have covered in the past sessions is going to get repeated again and again and again. So repetition is what we need to do, and that's what we do. Okay, so don't worry. I'm going to repeat everything again. So public static void main string args, right? Now I'm talking about conditions. Now in Java, we have different ways to put conditions. Now, first of all, what are conditions? Conditions are something like decision makings. I want to do something, but there is a condition, right? If I'm just simply saying, I'm simply writing some piece of code like this, there's no condition, because first this will execute it, then this will be executed, and this will be executed, then this will be executed, and then this will be executed in sequence. Okay. But if I want to put in a condition, something like, if this happens, then this should happen, else something else should happen. Okay. So something like, if I want to go ahead and write a pseudo code for it, if I'm writing a pseudo code, the way I would write is like this: if some condition, then do this. Else if some other condition, then do something else. And else, that means if it's neither this condition nor this condition, then do this. So if the way it works is, if this condition is satisfied, then it will do this, and that's it. It will not execute this, it will not execute anything else. Okay. If this is satisfied, then it will do this, it will not do anything else. If none of the condition is satisfied, then it will go and come into else. Okay. So this is how if condition is structured. Now we will see the utility of it, but I will just show you some examples, which as I said, to save more time and to show you more stuff, I've already prepared something, a lot of code here for demonstrating that. But before we even jump to that, I will also introduce some more thing. So this is not the only way by which you can put conditions. There are a lot of other things which we can use to put conditions. So there are primarily there are two things. One is this. There is one more thing called as switch statements. Okay. Now the way switch statement works is, let me just tell you the syntax. Switch. Then there are cases. Now here there will be a variable, or you can say an expression. If case is something, some value, then do something. If case has other value, do something else. So if you see the semantically, it's all the same. If condition as well as switch cases, both are kind of are used for the same thing called as decision making. This is decision making, right? You're making a decision, and based on that decision, you are doing something. You're making or validating something, and based on that, you're doing something else, right? Now, similar to else, we also have a condition here called as default. So if nothing matches, here the same thing in switch cases also the same thing would happen. Whatever variable value of this variable will be based on that. If the variable value is sm value, then it will come here. If the variable value is other value, it will come here. So based on that, if you notice the same semantically, it's just the same. Based on the condition, it will execute whatever is there. And once the idea is once it goes inside a condition, that's it. It will not go into other statements. It's not something like, it doesn't work sequentially, that it will first do this and it will do this again. No, if you want to do something, then you have to put two different if conditions. You cannot merge two things in the same if statements, right? If you really have two different set of conditions, it should be part of different if block. This is a block. It will be part of different if block. Not, should not be merging it with the same if conditions. Only the related decision making things, right, should be part of a single if block or switch case block. Now there is one more, I'll not talk about it, where you can do some decision making called a ternary operators. We will talk about it later, not today, right? So these are the two most important things which you would find and would be compelled to use, without which you can't survive, right? So these are two things which we need to learn. Now there's one more concept here. Now that concept is, again, I'm just trying to tell you the pseudo code. I'm not telling you this I'm not navigating to actual examples. First, we'll try to learn from pseudo, and then I'll show you the actual live examples. Now, second thing here is, now there is a possibility sometimes that once you reach out, once the condition is met, and when you start, the code will come to this point, which is then do something, then do this or something. At that point, you really need to have another condition checked. So at this moment, you really can put more conditions. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, this is also called as nested decision making or nested ifs. So for example, if I want to say, okay, some condition is met, now I want to do what? Next thing which I want to do is, I want to put another if condition. If this condition is met, if this condition is met, then do this, else do this. So this is how I'm going to structure it. This is called a nested. So I have one if condition inside this. If this is met and this is also met, then do this, else do this. Okay, this is nested, and I can put this anywhere. I can put this here also, I can put this here also, and you can actually make a lot of chains also. You can do this also. Then in the else part, you can do this. This is nested ifs, right? Then you can do this. Okay, you can do all of this, but this is not recommended. This is not a good practice to put so many if conditions within one another. If you do this, this is a bad programming. You will be called as bad programmer. Okay, because it becomes difficult for anyone to understand what's really is happening. That's the reason your code, when you write code, it should be very readable. It should be modular. Modular, by modular, I would like to say, what I mean is, it should be in a very small chunks, and so that why we need that, because when you make something in small chunks, the advantage you get is it's maintainable. You can really, anyone can come and read it, understand it, and maintain it and modify it. Okay, so when I say modify, maintainable simply means if I make a change somewhere, the effect of that change should be very minimal on other part of the code. This is what I mean by maintainability. And you would hear these terms. I will introduce these terms again, because in last class we discussed OOPS, and you remember we also discussed solid principles. I don't know how many of you went ahead and read this over internet. Solid principles. So there are a lot of different principles, and different pillars of a good programming. So maintainability, scalability, right? These are few of the jargons which usually you would hear from time to time. So maintainability is what I would like to tell you. Maintainability is simple. Maintainability means if you're writing a code, it should be maintainable. Means you should be able to make changes to it with the minimum effect on the surrounding. But if you write these kind of things, right, lot of if conditions and within if conditions and if else, what will happen? It will not look this simple, because there are a lot of stuff you're going to write here. So this will be like a huge piece of code, right? And anyone would come and see, he will not be able to understand it, what's there. So the moment he make a small change, the risk is, since he is not very sure what's really happening, he might end up introducing a bug in the code, a defect in the code. And trust me, that automation test which you write is actually to test the application, but that your automation test framework is still prone to have defects. So you cannot really write another test case to test your automation test framework, right? That's stupid. So we really have to become a very good programmer first, because there are two different skills: a good automation tester and good programmer. If you're a good programmer, you can become a good automation tester. But if you are a bad programmer, you can never become a good automation tester, right? So you really have to focus on your programming skills and good practices, design principles. And because so far what you have learned in colleges and colleges and all is OOPS. What is encapsulation? That too only the I should say the bookish descriptions, bookish definitions is what you know. How it really works is actually comes when you actually do hands-on. That's why I'm focused too much on hands-on. Okay, so enough said. So this is a bad practice. However, you can still do that. This would still work. This is called a nested conditioning. If this could still work, but if you really have to do this, that means you're doing some mistake. You need to split this code into different blocks so that it's easy to understand and easy to maintain. Okay, anyway, now the same thing you can do here in the switch case. And what you can do as well, one more thing, you can embed if conditions in switch and switch conditions in if. For example, you go here, condition if this and that, and in here you don't want to put another if block, you want a switch case, so you can do that, right? So I'm just giving a combination of switches and ifs, right? And same thing you can do with the switch cases here, like this. And inside this you can have another switch cases, right? Something like this. Now you might be thinking, why on earth I would be doing this, right? Because right now I'm only telling you the syntaxes. I'm telling you what Java is capable of doing, right? But why you would do it, in what circumstances, that comes from the business context. Like when you do something with using this tool called a Java, then you will learn why you are going to do that. That's why we really need to jump quickly onto Cerium so that you can get some context and perspective. Without that, this will just merely be a syntax. But this is again, a practice which you need to do to see how these conditions are actually, work in action. So far so good, guys. Batch 9 and batch 8, you can ask questions. I mean, you can put in chat. It's not that I have barred you from, like, censored you from asking anything. Okay, so don't feel that. You can still put your questions in the chat window or in WhatsApp group which we have. And if really something which is related to this, then you can ask as well. I mean, I'm not censoring. Okay, any questions so far on this? No one? Okay. If something comes up, please use chat or WhatsApp or just unmute yourself and speak. Right. So this is how our decision works in Java, and it's not really a product of Java. It's how all programming languages work: C#, Java, VBScript, JavaScript. They all have similar kind of thing. In VBScript, we have select cases. In JavaScript, we have switches. I'm not sure what we have in other languages, Python and all. I don't explore them that much, but this concept is really very simple, and this really is a very simple thing to understand. This is condition. This condition thing you guys do all the time. When you go to buy something, you have a lot of if conditions working in your brain, like neurons and all firing here and there, and lot of conditions being met. I should do this or do that. For example, you're going on a bike, you have 3 people sitting on the bike, then you have a continuous if conditions working in loop. Do we have a cop nearby? No, let's keep on going. Do we have, and you continuously do it every second, every nanosecond. The moment you see, oh, cop is there, you immediately 1% drops off, and then you go past the police station, and then you again become 3 and you go on. That's what we used to do when we were in colleges, right? So that's how it is. That decision making is something which is very innate to our behaviors, and that is what we also find in our Java and all, because that is our creation, isn't it? Right?
Hey Akash, I have one query.
Yeah.
Iqbal is here.
Yes, Iqbal, tell me.
Yeah, so there are some more loops like try and catch and while. So can we embed that as well?
Yeah, very good question. Okay, so thanks Iqbal for asking. So see, now I'll just, so try and catch is something for later, but since you raised it, I will talk about that as well. So this is try and catch. I'll just give a small understanding of how this try and catch works. This is called as exception handling in Java. That means if you are writing a piece of code which you are not very sure, it could throw an error, because the moment your code throws an error, the code stops, right? It stops in abruptly, and we don't want it. We want, if something happens and something bad happens, in that case, do something else, but don't stop. Give a good error or try to recover from that exception, but don't just stop. So in some sense, you can also say this acts as a decision making, like something, if something happens, something happens. This is something which I was talking about, the example analogy which I was giving for that bike thing. 3 people riding a bike, right? It's against law. So you're not sure when the cop will show up. You have no idea. Maybe the cop will never show up. You will continue with your ride and you'll go and enjoy with your 3 people riding in a bike. But you never know, right? So what you do is, in that cases, you put that line of code in a try catch, in a try block. So what will happen the moment the cop appears, the moment some error appears, it will not execute these lines, but it will not also fail. It will say, let me find a recovery for it. The recovery for it would be here. Okay, so this is how basically a try catch works, wherein everything runs in sequence, everything is happy, everything is working fine. This will never be reached. No one will, you will not be able to come here. That means you will not be able to, one person will not have to disembark from the bike. But something happens here, an error comes here. For example, simple case is 1/0, right? 1/0, something like this. If this kind of thing happens, then that means it happened abruptly. You are not planning it, because if you would have planned, you knew, for example, you knew at this point the cop, I will find the cop, then you already know. Then in that case, you will simply use if condition, because you know that at this point I will definitely get a cop, तो मैं अपने आप ही उतर जाऊंगा bike से, right? But you didn't knew that, because it could come at any chalk, at any circle, you might get a cop, right? So in that case, what will happen? You will put your code inside a try block, and if something goes wrong anywhere, it will stop executing there, all the below code, because this is the error. It will get an error here, and then it will come inside the catch block, and it will get executed. Now what you can do is, now the original question which Iqbal asked was, how can we embed this thing inside here? The same way. For example, you are here and you think inside this, I'm not sure, there are 3 lines which will get executed, but I'm not sure at which line error would come. So what I will do, I will say, I will put this inside a try block. I will say try catch. And of course in catch we have a condition. So there is what type of error, something like this. What is the type of error which you are seeing is what it will be caught here. Okay, so essentially what you're really saying here is, if this condition is met, then go here. If this condition is met, then check this condition is also met, then the pointer will come here and it will start executing this. If everything is happy, everything is fine, then this will get executed and it will not come here. So here it will not come. This will never get executed if no error is coming here. If at this point error is coming or cop is present, right, police is present, then it will not execute this line. It will directly jump here. Cop found. Okay, it's a funny example, right? So cop is found. If the cop is found, then start executing this. Okay, so you can do this kind of embedding anywhere. You can do this also. You can put a try condition here also at the top. So you will say, okay, I will execute all of this here. Catch exception, or maybe whatever exception you have. So if this gets executed successfully, and let's say it is somewhere here, let's say it didn't go here, it came here, and now here some error come, right? There's some error which came and you're not very sure. As I said, errors which you don't know when it would come, but you know that it might come. Okay, so there's a difference between if condition and try catch. Try catch is used when you know the error might come, but when that is not what you're sure of, then you definitely have to use try catch, right? Like this example of cop, because you're not aware when the cop will show up. At any circle it could, he would appear from nowhere, right? in that case you definitely have to use try catch. But if you know already that at this point, after doing this, after going this much at this circle, I will definitely get a cop, then you know that I will get the cop at this point for definite, you're definitely sure. So then you will use a simple if condition. Now having said that, it never harms to put try catch when you write code. Why? It's considered one of the good practice, because you really don't want your code to be abruptly stopped or hanged. Okay. So what happens is sometimes you don't really know whether I would get an error. You are not expecting any error, but you could be wrong, right? You could be definitely wrong. Guys, give me a minute. Sorry guys, sorry for interruption. Yeah, so what I was saying, that this try and catch stuff, it's a good practice to use it. Simply the reason behind it, simple, that you cannot be aware about all the possible mistakes, of all the possible exceptions which might happen or which might occur. If you are expecting something, that something might happen, then yeah, of course you have to do this. But you can never be sure whether things will work as you expect them to. In that case, it's always advisable to use try catch. But the bad thing which you do, or sometimes people do, is they write things in try catch, try block, and in the catch they forget to and write anything. So they say, okay, exception caught, exception will be caught, there will be no error, but I will not do something here. If you're doing this, then you are implementing the try catch block in a very bad way. Okay, so it's always good, not always good, it's necessary that you put some recovery plan here, right? So what is your recovery plan when you get caught by a policeman, right? What is the recovery scenario? Because scenario is one person will drop off. That is your recovery plan. That one person will drop off. That is your recovery plan. But if you don't have a recovery plan, you will say, if I caught, then I'll go to catch, but I don't do anything. Then you're gone anyway. Different kind of thing will happen, right? So this is how it is. Try catch is considered, you can consider it as some, in a kind of decision stuff, but unexpected errors. It's not really decisioning, but it's something called as recoveries, exception handling. This is what the name for these kind of things, try catches. Of course, there is a concept called as finally. There is different scenarios which you can write here. If this happens, then this happens. For example, if blue cop catches you, don't do anything, give some money, give 50 rupees. If khaki ones catch you because they have the right to cut a challan and all, then do this, prepare for 500 rupees, right? Something like that. And then you have a finally block also, finally block, where it is keep going. That means if this happens, something gets problematic, stop it, go to the appropriate scenario, and if that also works, then this will definitely get executed. So today's session is really not about try catch. I might have bored you or confused you further, so don't worry if you didn't get it. I will cover this again. This is an important concept. We'll do this when we do other Java programs. Okay, so not to worry, just focus on this one. So we have this if conditions, and we have the switch cases, and you can embed switch case within if conditions, if within switches, and all the combinations are possible. Only thing we should avoid doing is going 3 level down. So if anything more than 3 is a problem, I would say anything more than 2 is a problem. But industry standard is if you're going 3 level deep. So here there are 3 levels: 1, 2nd, and 3rd. 3 level deep. If you're going a 3 level deep and more than that, you're really kind of destroying, or you are a bad programmer, as simple as that. Okay, so please remember this. This is not for now, because these things, while working, while doing projects, you will come across few things. You might not come across few things, and you will forget. Once you get inside a company, when you start working there, these things are very of utmost importance. It should not happen that you're writing this kind of code and your manager or lead is seeing it and he's kind of mocking you, right? You don't want to get embarrassed and mocked in front of everyone, right? So as I said, becoming good programmer is of utmost importance, more important than becoming a good automation tester. Okay, enough said. Now let me just show you a few examples. Okay, so I will first show you a basic one, which is this. So if you see here, what we have is int month 4, and I'm not sure if I'm assuming today we don't have anyone who is joining for the first time, because we're joining it for the first time and you're not very familiar with Java, then this would be a tough session for you. So you have to let me know. I will arrange some other basic sessions, because we cannot continue to do basic sessions any longer. So if you have, I will separately arrange a call for you to explain you a few stuff. So here I'm assuming you know what this is. This is a variable month. We have a data type here, integer type. This will only store integer. Then here I have another variable called as season. So what the purpose of this program is that the season is a variable of type string. That means it will store string, and based on the month which I'm putting here, right? Based on the month which I'm putting here, based on that, it will determine what is the season, right? So for example, if month is 2, 1, or 12, I'll explain what this is in a while. So if 12, 1, and 2, then its season is winter. If the month is 3rd, 4th, and 5th, it's spring. 6th, 7th, 8th is summer, and 9th, 10th, and 11th is autumn, right? And if you're putting something else, it's a bogus month. As simple as that. Okay. Now, as I said, this is a simple if condition. Simple if condition, no nested, nothing. If you remember, the way I explained was in the pseudocode, here we need to put some conditions, right? Now this condition can only have 2 outputs. Either it is a true or it is a false. Okay. If it is a true, then it will go inside. If it is a false, then it will not go inside. It will check whether we have another if conditions. If it will go here and check, is it a true? If it is true, then it will go inside. Otherwise, it will not go inside. Same thing will happen here. And eventually, if it is not going anywhere, none of the condition is giving me a Boolean true. None of them is giving me Boolean true. That means that it is a false and it will not go inside. And in the beginning, it will take me to this else condition. Okay. So if it goes nowhere, it will definitely come to else condition. Now, else condition is again not mandatory. If you remove this, nothing would happen. Okay. If you remove that, nothing will happen, right? But again, it's not a good practice. So these are again good practices. Now if you have if condition and you have a else if, you always should be having an else. Okay. Why? Because if it goes nowhere, nothing would happen, and you don't want, you want something should execute. Something should execute. If something is here, it's going here. If it is not, all of these conditions are not being met, then it should say something. So here at least it's saying something, that you are putting a bogus month, else it will not say anything, right? I will show you the impact of this not putting an else condition. Okay. So let me just put a blank here. So if I just run this, run as Java application, it's saying April is in the spring. That's fine. Now if let's say someone puts some wrong input, it is saying April is in the what's saying April is in the season, right? So what do you think of it? April is in the dot. So this is a wrong output from my program. I don't want my program to be saying this April is in the blank. Okay. So that's the reason I should always put the else part, so that if user have given some incorrect value, then my program should understand it. It should say, okay, you have sent a wrong input, right? So now it's April in the bogus month. So now I can see, okay, it's a bogus month. That means user have made a mistake. Or I can simply write here bogus month, enter correct month. stupid. I'm saying this to a user, right? So I can put my some good messages to tell user of my program that he has done a mistake. If you don't put else condition, your user will never know what happened. This you would see, every time. You ever see these kind of behaviors every day, these mistakes which you see. Usually when you go to a website, you try to do something and then nothing happens. है ना, कुछ नहीं हो रहा है उसमें. कुछ क्यों नहीं हो रहा है? Because the code of the programmer missed something. The programmer didn't put right error handlings, they didn't put good conditions in recovery scenarios. All of this is developer's fault. And you also are going to become a sort of developer. You're going to develop a code to automate our application, right? So you should also be printing good information about the mistake which you're making. So all this I said just to mention that the else part is of utmost importance. You should not miss the else parts. Again, a good practice. Now there are cases, exceptions are always there. Sometimes you don't need to put an else condition, then you can only put an if condition. It's fine, but you need to really know, and that's why the context comes into picture. In what context, in what cases you can do that. So there's no hard fast rule when to do, when not to do. You really need, that comes by experience, practice, because then you understand the context of the problem, context of the code which you are writing, meaning of कि वो क्यों कर रहे हैं. Basically context is why you are doing that specifically. Okay. All right, so this is simple if condition. Now only thing which is pending in this example is these statements, right? This is called as logical statements, which is or conditions. So if you want to merge two conditions, so here I'm saying if month is 12, if month was 4, so if month is 12, double equal to means comparator. This is how you compare two values. I'm comparing 4 with 12. Is 4 equal to 12? No. So it will give me Boolean false. So it will be like something like this, a false. Then I have this statement, which is called as or. I am again assuming you know what is and or. If you're from computer background, you should know it definitely. Otherwise, I would doubt how did you get your degree. Okay, this is and or not, right? This is that. If you're not from computer background, if you even still are from computer background, but it's been quite a while you have seen this and you are not very familiar with this, again you have to let me know. It's not very it's not very difficult to understand what it is. So basically this is the comparing two values. 4 double equal to means you are comparing, it's not a single equal, it's a double equal, means comparing. You're comparing 4 equal to 12. Is it 4 is equal to 12? No, right? So your condition is false. Same, 4 is equal to 1? No, so again a false. 4 is equal to 2? No, again a false. So this is an or basically. So the idea is if all the conditions are false, it will give me false. If any one of them is true, let's say if one of them is true, at least one of them would be true, where it would be here. So here 4 equal to 3, false. 4 equal to 4, true. 4 equal to 5, false. So now since false, true, false, at least one of them is true. So this will give me a true. Right? Now, had it be, if let's say it would be like this, this is called as AND. If you need an AND condition, then this is how it would look. Then in this case, what would happen? This will give me a false. Okay, so this is logical structuring. Maybe I will try to cover it in one of the session. I will write it down. Maybe I'm not sure how many of you are aware of it. See, if you're not getting this, what I'm trying to explain here, then please let me know, because I'm assuming few things here, and my assumptions could be a clear assumptions, which is I'm assuming that you know this and you don't know that, and then I would give you something else to work upon, and you will not be able to work on it that efficiently because you lack basic fundamental understanding about the previous concept, and that would put me as well as you in a bad spot. So you really have to be very, very interactive in telling me what it is which you don't know. Okay, and there's no shame, trust me, there's no shame, no embarrassment, nothing. You can ask stupid question, because I don't believe any question is a stupid question. Okay, so please, if you don't want to publish that into a group, you can ping me personally. I usually don't reply, but I see them maybe late. So it's not that I never see personal pings. I see them, and I do reply. I'll consider them basically in our schedules. Okay, so I'm assuming, do you know this much? So in this case, you see, this false. So this was a true. This gives me a true. Since it gave me a true, that means this condition became true. And since this condition was true, the season variable will initialize with spring. So this is here where I just declared it. This is, I have initialized. So now season became spring, and eventually it will not execute these statements. So it will not go here, it will not go here, it will not go anywhere here. It will directly come to the last statement. Okay. And if you have some confusion about how this is written, so read it like this. This actually is like this. In Java, if there is only one statement, then you can directly write that. Otherwise, this is the right way to write it. Okay. So else if, this is else if, then another else if, something like this. So this is a very simple format of writing it. I'm just structuring it like this, right? So this is basically how it looks. And if this is successful, then it will not go anywhere else. It will just print it. Now, I have spent quite a lot of time in this. I wanted to cover for loop also, and time is running out. So I'll just move on quickly. This is not nested. Yeah. Anyone wishes to say something?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have one question regarding, like, instead of writing separately, like month equals to 12, or so can we write like month equals to 12 or 1 or 2?
You are saying month equal to 12, then or 2, like this?
Yeah, like we write now month equals to 12 or month equals to 1. So can we write month equals to 12 or 1?
I've never done it, and I really don't know the way to do it, but I doubt there is any, because this acts as a standard expression. So you cannot you might be able to do something with using some functional programming perhaps. I'm not very sure, but I am not aware of that thing.
Okay.
You cannot do something like this and or maybe something like this is what you're suggesting, perhaps like making a set or something. So there might, I'm not denying it outrightly, but I don't think so this is how anyone uses it. So there has to be proper expressions like this. There could be a way. I'm still saying there could be a way, but I would note it down. If there is any, I would let you know. And if you find it, you also can post in the group that there is a way to simply in a single statement, you can mention 2 values.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, I would say that sometimes it's not advisable to merge things. It's always good to divide stuff to make it more modular. It might not apply here, but the simple idea is, instead of merging 2 things, keep it separate. So here I have kept it separate. So month is 12, month is 11. So it gives me a good picture or good view of what we really am checking. Okay. So I will write your question down. So who was it? Yuvraj?
No, Ashutosh, sir.
Ashutosh. Okay, Ashutosh, I will recommend you please post the same question on the WhatsApp so that I could be reminded of it. Okay, write the same question there. It's a good question, by the way. Okay, good question. I will have a look at it whether, and if there is not a straightforward way, I think there is some functional programming way. Maybe we can do that. Okay, we will talk about it later. Okay, thanks. So I'll go to the nested one. So in nested one, I was planning to actually show you how to do that. So maybe, for example, month is 4 and day is 24. So what I could do is I can simply write, if month is 3, and if day is equal to 24, then I should say it's my birthday, right? So for example, my birthday is 24th March, which actually is, in this case, if I want to bring this modification into my code, right? Because modification happens all the time. So if there is a simple code and you want to modify that, you want to also print the birthday if someone is putting in their birthdays, right? So I'm putting 24. So what will happen? It will first come into 3. And if there is 3, season is spring. And then it will check whether the day is 24, right? If day is 24, then it will say, it will print, it's my birthday. Okay. So now, let me see. I need to put this inside brackets. So in Java, what happens is, so there are different ways of writing. Okay. So if there is a single statement with for if condition, you can miss these brackets. These brackets are not mandatory. But if there are more statements than this, then it becomes mandatory to put inside a brackets. So right now, all the statements which you see here are single. So that's why I didn't need to put any brackets, but here I had to put, because I have added one more condition here. Okay. So if I just run it, run as Java application. So it's my birthday is printed, April is in spring is printed. If I move it to 6, that means it will not go here. Since it will not go here, this if condition will never be reached. Okay. So let me just show you that. So now it's my birthday will never be printed. And there's one more way to do that, maybe investigate it. I will show you that as well. So now April is in summer, right? Okay. So now the thing is, one last thing which I want to talk about here, which is not really today's agenda, but since I recalled of it, it's better I talk about it. I'll talk about how will you debug a program. This is pretty much the advanced stuff. But as I said, I would like to repeat things, and I would like you to hear about it. If you don't get it, never mind. If at least if 5% you understand, good enough for me, because I'm anyways going to repeat that. So the thing is, I wanted this code to print it's my birthday. I wanted this to happen, but unfortunately it didn't happen. I'm not sure about these values. For example, let's say it's a big code. I don't know from where what value is coming. But unfortunately, this is not being printed. I'm confused about it. So what I'll do, I would need to debug my code. So I need to see where the error lies. What are the values of the variables while execution? Because when I just run it, I don't know what is the value of month. I don't know what is the value of season. I don't know what is the value of day, right? So I'm not sure about all of those things. So what I'll simply do is I will try to debug it. Means that I would run it and see what are the values of these statements or these variables when I actually execute it, or when I actually go one step, execution of one expression at one point of time. So what I do, I first do a concept called as breakpoints. That is, I will simply double click on the line. I will simply say, okay, I'm not sure why it's not happening. So I will just put a double point here, breakpoint here at this point. And then I'll do a right click and I'll say, debug as. So here two options are there, run as and debug as. I will say debug as Java application. For debugging purposes, there are many ways to do. If you go inside run, you'll see debug, and then you also see some other options. Okay. I'll talk about those options maybe later. As I said, I don't want you guys to be confused about it a lot. So just let's keep it simple. I'll simply say debug as Java application. So now I will get this pop-up. This is confirm perspective switch. What it's saying that right now what you're seeing is as a Windows. I would like to change it because I would like this to be opened in a different perspective, different window view, nothing else. So you see here, this one is right now it is on this J, and as soon as I do a switch, it will go to this bug symbol. I'll do a switch. So it has come to a bug. If you want to go back, you can quickly click here and it will bring you the original perspective. If you click here, it will get you to the debug perspective. But now here, if I'm right now in a bug perspective, here it will show me not many details. So one detail is that the thread. So right now it is saying that this is running this package called as basic control statement if as needed localhost this 5507. Then it's saying that I'm running a thread called as this, and right now I am in this side this method of line 30. This is line 30. So I know my pointer has stopped here. My code has stopped here. Now I have the privilege. Let me remove this. So now I have a privilege to see what are the values, the values of these variables. So I can say, okay, what is the value of month? So I will say, I can do two things by the way. I can right click on it and I can say add to watch or simple watch. As soon as I do this, it will come here and it will show me the current value of this variable called as month. I can also do this. I can directly add a statement variable name here, day. Okay. Apart from doing that, I can also do this. I can copy the complete statement like this and put it here, and it will tell me the value of it. So right now it's telling me it's a false. And now I am able to know why it failed, because I'm expecting this to be true. Only when this is true, only then I will be reaching here, right? I can also do individual. So I can say month equal to 2. It is a false, right? So individual, so you can put expressions here, basically as simple as that. You can run a complete code, complete expression here. It will give you the value of it. So this is my problem is, that is, if this is false, which is this one, this statement is false, it will never come here, right? I will say, okay, what is the value of month? It's saying value month is 6. Okay, so right now I know what is the problem. Okay, now I can stop, debug, and start fixing my code, or I can just say, okay, let me see where else it would go. So I can put some other breakpoints somewhere else. Okay, somewhere here and here. So wherever I would put breakpoints, my code pointer will stop here. If you don't want to do that, then you can also do these things: step into, step over. So I'll not explain all of this. This is, again, as I said, a separate session. I'll talk about how to debug and all, because that's a very important thing which you all need to know. You don't know how to code, it's fine. You don't know how to debug, you cannot fit anywhere. Debugging is the most crucial, most important aspect of your job life. So you will be given a lot of code, and there you will have to, your manager lead would say, okay, fix it. It's not working, check it why it's not working. That's all we do. That's all we do. Right? So debugging is a very important thing, and we'll talk about it later. But I just wanted to give you a flavor of how to do that. Anyway, so if you want to make it, let's say you want to continue the flow of the execution, you can simply say resume. So you will do a resume. It will just go and stop at the next breakpoint. So it will stop here. And since you have put a 6 here, now if I copy this expression and paste it here, it will give me a true. That means now it will go inside this loop. Sorry, this particular statement. And if I just say resume, it will go and stop here, and it will just print it. So the season, value of season, I can simply copy and paste here. The value of season becomes summer, because it went here, right? It went here. So season value had initialized with summer, and that's where I am. All right. Any questions so far with this with this debug thing? Now, if you stuck here, so you simply have to click on this. It will bring you to the original perspective. So now I know, okay, the problem was here. So I will simply change it. And that's it. So my bug will be resolved now. So I can just simply run it and it will run. Any questions so far, guys? No? Okay. So I had actually a big agenda. I spent a lot of time explaining different things. I also wanted to talk about for loops, basically. But unfortunately, I think my time is past. I have some other engagement after this. So I will not be continuing with the rest of the stuff. Now what I want from you guys is, I would anyway will be putting in this code. So next session which we would have, I think what is the schedule? What schedule did I put? I think tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? No, right? Let me see. Okay, I see. It's on Saturday now. Okay, so Saturday we are going to talk about all of this code. So a lot of things I need to talk about for loops, how to use for loops with ifs, while loops, then nested for loops. Again, a very important concept which you guys have to do and learn by heart, how to use nested for loops, because that's where the complexity comes. Sorting of arrays and all those things require 2 for loops, and if you have from computer background, you must have printed 1, 2, 3 in a pyramid format, and all of those places you need nested for loops. So we need to learn this. Then some labeling stuff in for, because you want to break. These all are actually how to break for loops. this we're going to talk about, and I'll try to explain how this is. But before I even go and explain it, I want you guys to go through it first, because then you kind of, can ask more questions. Your retention in the class becomes higher. So it's good if you know this, read this previously, and maybe then in the class you can ask more questions. Okay, Yadnesh is saying debug is not clear. Okay, don't worry, Yadnesh. As I said, we will be doing this a lot. Trust me. This is even this if else for this is the foundation fundamental thing. Debugging, if for, without this you can't do anything. So all of this will be repeated a lot. So don't worry about it. But having said that, you try it, because this is not really a movie which you can just watch and you understand. You really, so when I explain something, I'm expecting you guys would get at least 10%, 20%, 30%. I never expect that whenever I'm explaining something, you would get 100%. So if your retention is 50%, it's still good. Remaining 20%, 30%, you will know or understand when you actually implement it. So you really would know the difference. So all of you just try this experiment today. Whatever I explained, whatever information you understood from my side, try it on your own. Just try once. See, maybe if you want to copy paste and try running it. Of course, it would be better if you just see it and type it out. If you type it, it will be better. But if you're not typing it or even copy pasting, I'm happy with that. But just open Eclipse and try it out. Okay, you will get it, how this works, and then you will get more questions. The number of questions, I know from the question which you're asking how much you are doing. I get it. So that's what I was saying in the beginning, that a lot of you guys didn't do it because no one asked questions. Only 2 or 3 people asked questions and actually submitted their assignments. Otherwise, other than that, no one actually did that. Again, not judging, just saying this is how I know how much you guys are really getting. That's the reason basically I have little bit changed my strategy as well, because I was getting this impression that you guys are not following it. But now I've come down to real basics, and I really am expecting you guys to do hands-on and try to ask more questions. And you not ask questions if you're not doing it. First thing. Second thing is you have to submit as well. So I will give you a placeholder. I'm going to create a placeholder in Dropbox or Google Drive, and not on GitHub, because GitHub is quite new to you guys and you might get easily confused with that. So I'll create a Dropbox or Google Drives folders for you guys, and that's where you're going to put your assignments. Right now there's nothing to submit because I'm not giving you any assignment per se, but I would like you guys to try it out. You know where it is kept. I've already told you this is kept here, called in the GitHub library. You will find all of this code here under a, so right now there is no package called as basic, but I'll have to check it in. Once I commit this, you will see a folder called as basic, and that's where all this code would be. So you have to see that and try it on your own. Do 2 things. One, this much, these files, and then these files as well. Just go through it. See what's there. What are these statements, right? So this is the for loops, nested for loops we are going to talk about in Saturday's class. Okay, and if there is any assignment I could think of for only if conditions, then I will publish the assignment in the group, and I would expect you guys to work on it and kind of submit. So I will publish the instructions to how to submit your assignments. And lastly, for the people who don't have Eclipse access, what you can do is, so you can try all of this very easily within the, let me open Java. Where is Java? So there are many open editors basically for practicing Java code. If you're not able to find any, then simply you have to go to W3 Schools, here inside Java, W3 Schools Java default JSP. Let me ping this in the group as well, in the chat rather I will ping. Okay. Click on this run example, and this is your editor. So here you can simply write your Java code, right? All you have to do is to edit this, and you can just run it. I don't know why it is not coming. It is simple code, is it? Okay. I don't know. Previously, this was supposed to be working. Let me see. Run example. It's not editor, is it? I doubt this is, they've removed it or something. Okay, I will provide a separate editor. There are a lot of online Java editors available, where you even Eclipse. You know, there's a Eclipse Share. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but this is Eclipse over browser. This is something really good thing which I found. This is Eclipse over browser, and you can really use it to write your Java code. Okay, there are a lot more other things, other Kubernetes and all. Don't worry about all of that. But you really, so my whole and sole point is that not having Eclipse installed in a system is not should not be treated as a blocker. You can really use Eclipse, or you can really use online Java editors to write your Java or practice your Java code. As long as we are not doing any application building, we are not working on Selenium and all. As long as we are not doing that, you can, for learning Java, you can use online Java editors anytime. If you have access to a system, then you can practice it. I'll find some Java editor and post the link on WhatsApp. Okay. Okay, guys. So I don't have anything else. If you have any questions, you have to post in the group. If you don't have a personal stuff, you want to talk to me in person, you can again ping me and then call me. Okay.